welcome to the Cryptonaut Podcast. I'm Mark Storrs, and with me is Chris Carnicelli.
Hi, guys.
And Rob Morphy.
How's it going?
All right, everybody. So this week, we're going to be talking about the Pentagon's Secret UFO Program.
Mind-boggler.
Oh.
So this came out, I want to say...
mid-December.
About mid-December.
Yeah. We're a little late to the rodeo,
Yeah.
but there's still bulls and clowns and all the accoutrement of rodeo.
Bulls and
So
clowns.
Just let that stand.
So this article and video came out, it was originally, I believe, published in the New York Times.
I don't know if it was originally published in the New York Times, but that was where I think it got the bulk of its traction. But I've seen it on like televised news shows. But I think New York Times might have broken the story,
and
but they certainly had the big one.
The video of one of the UFO encounters with a Navy pilot was posted from the To the Stars Academy, which is Tom DeLonge's UFO
Research organization.
tank.
Yeah, this is a big story. This is a big story in a lot of ways, which kind of blows my mind. I first saw the clip on MSNBC, Chris Hayes, where I was shocked to see a political show play a UFO clip.
Yeah.
So then I was like, what the hell is going on? I found the articles and I was like, we all, I think, everyone who's going to be listening to a podcast like this, all of you out there, and certainly the three of us here, I think we never doubted that the government was still looking into UFOs. Even though they said 1969, they closed Project Blue Book, which was formerly Grudge, which was formerly whatever, and that they poo-pooed the whole thing, and that when you call the government, they say, we don't deal with this anymore. If you call the Air Force, they're like, no way, Jose. We don't talk about it. But I think we all knew that anything that is foreign, ostensibly amazing in its technology and invades our airspace is going to be looked into by the government. What this is, though, is the first leaked, I guess, this is sort of like the Pentagon Papers or any other big story that comes out, confirmation of the fact that at least officially until 2012, and very likely continuing to this day, the Pentagon was continuing to invest money and time and effort into studying the UFO phenomenon, which is the first really massive revelation from the United States government when all these other countries are releasing their UFO archives over the past decade. This is the first really big story. So I think I was kind of blown away that it sort of just leaked out, no big deal, this is what's happening.
Yeah, no, it is weird, just because, look, I saw the footage, too, first, and I'm like, oh, sweet UFO footage, but I feel like just out of nowhere, there's this big thing. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, hey, guess what? Because of this. Like, there's been footage of stuff before.
Of
like
course.
But all of a sudden, this one was the one that broke this whole...
Yeah, this came directly from the Pentagon in their, like Rob was saying, like in their continual monitoring of service members having interactions with UFOs. So, like Navy, Air Force, people coming in contact with them.
You know, professional pilots that know the difference between. Yeah. I don't know. The Russians have MiGs anymore, but they know the difference between an airplane and an anomalous object that is doing things that seem to be beyond the capacity of our current technology.
Right. So this program was running and through various people and all kinds of rabbit holes that basically got the government to declassify these, put these out, and then when the government's questioned, like, is this legit? They're like, yeah, that's it. But that's what we got. Which is fucking astounding.
It is.
Yeah, somehow, to us, this is all big news. Okay, so we're all like...
because we're into this.
No, this vindicates everything. You're like, yeah, UFOs, there you go. But I think my personal opinion on this is because of the political shitstorm that we're living in. This got kind of swept under the rug, where people are just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, there's UFO stuff, great."
Oh, absolutely. I think the gravity of this revelation will be something that will resonate for a long time, and I think it will be years before people are like, "This came out," and everyone was so caught up in all of this other stuff that it sort of got swept under the rug. But this is one of the biggest deals.
I want to say
they basically said UFOs are real. They didn't say they're aliens, but they said they're real.
They're acknowledging it's like a deal. It's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's
but
a government program.
I think if you're a kid under 20, you give no shits because you're still looking at YouTube. If you're our age, you'd be like, holy shit, like it's kind of something. I still, like, we haven't changed our lives about it.
No.
But people, I think a lot of people are just like, you know what, they're not surprised. It's like, oh, the government's just, they hit another thing that they were doing before, now they're doing this.
Right.
I don't think that the implications are really, when they're not really thinking about what it means for years, that there could be other things. That
absolutely.
That's where the story gets a little.
We'll get into the story. What I'm going to basically do is semi-paraphrase the New York Times article and other ones that I came across. And as we tell the broader story of all of this, so you guys get if you don't happen to know what we're really talking about, you'll get a general idea of the big picture. We'll start, illustrating little points as we go. But this is the basic thing, and like Chris and Mark and I said, it starts with the video. So I'm going to start with how the New York Times described it. A video shows an encounter between a Navy FA-18 Super Hornet, which, by the way, is an awesome name for a
Super
plane.
Hornet.
Yeah, come on, you're the Super
It's
Hornet.
pretty dope.
Yeah, they're already decks. Like Super Hornets, like
Yeah, that's deadly.
extra deck. Yeah.
They should have like the F-18 Mud Wasp or something.
Oh
Truly
my
deadly.
God, Mega Scorpion.
Oh my God! Now
That's
that
way
fly.
better.
But you
The
know
Mega
what?
Scorpion.
That's a land and air. All right, we're getting distracted.
No, yeah, you're right. Scorpion's definitely a ground.
Between the Super Hornet and an unknown object. It was released by the Defense Department's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which is what they call it. Now, this is all capital letters. This is a real acronym. Defense Department Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. I'm glad we have it. We ought to have it. It's sci-fi as the dickens.
Yeah.
Like, when you hear that, you're like, that's something we just saw in a movie. Like a made-for-sci-fi movie or even a big budget thing. That's not a real program that the government has.
No, I know.
But of course it is.
Yeah.
If you work there, how awesome is your job?
Oh, and the shit you might get to see.
You have a really cool desk, and you're probably just like, every day you're like, we're protecting the fucking earth.
Yeah,
man.
no, it's great, but you probably couldn't say much of anything.
Well, no, but you have this your own self-realized sitting at your desk.
No,
like, I'm the last
you
defense.
do, but you want it. That's
Yeah.
why we don't work there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
First off, I think we'd hit the panic button a lot.
We'd be arrested immediately. On the first day of the job, within 5 minutes, I get a phone call from Mark being like, "Dude,
Lizard people are real. I
listen
fucking
to
told
this."
you so.
Dad in fucking
Clack
jail.
sounds going.
Dad in NORAD prison, whatever the fuck that is.
Dude, they sent me to the ice wall run by fucking NASA.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, then, we'll deal with the NASA ice wall at a later date. All right, so of the $600 billion annual Defense Department budget, a mere but still respectable $22 million is spent on the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which was almost impossible to find, which was how the Pentagon wanted it. For years, the program investigated reports of unidentified flying objects. According to Defense Department officials, interviews with program participants, it was run by military intelligence official Luis Elizondo on the 5th floor of the Pentagon's C ring, deep within the building's maze.
So this guy's legit.
So he's balls deep in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you get deeper, if it means that you were more top secret,
Yeah,
or
if you
if
get more
it's
toward the
just...
center of the labyrinth.
I don't know how
That's
that
where you start
works.
getting-
When
like-
your centers are like a big minotaur, like, you won, and you get some treasure.
That's where all the cool portals are. Where you can just use
Oh
all
my
the
God, I didn't think
all the
about
cool
that.
like, light technology to travel to
Oh, they have
China.
Stargates. You know they do.
That's what all Stargates are hidden. Clearly.
Stargate. I think about that's where it is.
It has to be. Where else would it be
We
but the
might-
middle
I
of
don't-
the Pentagon?
I don't
We might
know.
have some Stargate episodes coming up. We'll see.
The Defense Department, as we have mentioned, has never before acknowledged the existence of the program, which it says it shut down in 2012. But its backers say that while the Pentagon ended funding for the effort at that time, the project remains in existence. For the past 5 years, they say, the officials in the program have continued to investigate episodes brought to them by service members while also carrying out their Defense Department duties.
So this is only service members. This is not civilian reports. This is just members of
That's
the
what it
armed
seems
forces.
like. And who would be in a better position? But people officially sanctioned by the, be it astronauts, of course, pilots, people that work on military
So
installations.
These are people that they're obviously in the military. They are trained and they deal with pretty heavy duty shit on a regular basis if they're in combat.
I would say pilots, and I think this is well known and universally accepted, make the best eyewitnesses in terms of UFOs because they're the best qualified to know what they're coexisting with up there.
What it could or could not be.
So bringing in their credibility really is something that you just can't do.
You can, but you'd be a fool to try.
Thank you.
Right.
Well, I mean, if they were like...
Well, not everybody.
Yeah.
Like I say, I put pilots above it, but a random Joe, whether or not him to be wearing a uniform, is probably no better at identifying something they see in the sky than we are.
No, right.
But the people with training,
that are in the sky and know how to maneuver in the sky, know how things maneuver in the sky.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's right. Write that shit
Well
down,
said.
bitches.
And that's Chris's
I
doctoral
know.
thesis. That's what he went to grad school on.
Fuck yeah, PhD.
All right.
Maneuvering.
The Shadowy program, parts of which still remain classified, began in 2007, and initially it was largely funded at the request of Harry Reid, the Nevada Democrat who was the state Senate Majority Leader at the time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Apparently, Reed has had a long interest in space phenomenon. Most of the money went to an aerospace research company run by billionaire entrepreneur and longtime friend of Mr. Reed, Robert Bigelow,
Mr.
who is currently
Bigelow.
working with NASA to produce expendable craft for humans to use in space.
So real quick, Mr. Bigelow, born 1945, is an American businessman who owns the hotel chain Budget Suites of America. And
Sweet.
Budget.
along with being the founder of Bigelow Aerospace and working on these really cool space hotels,
Right.
he is also the person that purchased in Utah Skinwalker Ranch.
Which is a famed paranormal hotspot.
It's got UFOs, it's got poltergeists, and even Sasquatch sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
it's got
he
everything.
clearly had to buy this thing up. Now, we're
Shape
gonna-
changers,
But-
all sorts of crazy
bulletproof
stuff.
wolves.
I don't
yeah.
think I'd want to go into space in a hotel called Budget.
No.
Yeah, no.
I want to breathe and not die.
Well, I
Yeah.
think the whole thing with Bigelow, which is kind of interesting, is he started this Budget Suites of America, which is kind of what propelled all his other stuff. So that's where he makes all his cash to put into
But
all
his
these other
passions-
businesses.
Because he's really involved in a lot of strange things, and we'll talk about a little bit
Yeah.
of this coming up. But I mean, besides owning Skinwalker Ranch, he's essentially kind of taken over MUFON.
Yeah.
He gets all the reports that you send to MUFON, basically.
Yeah. So he's not just a hotel guy who's big into aliens.
When the government-
he's the hotel guy that's big into aliens.
Exactly.
Like-
When the government gets civilian reports of UFOs, they don't study them themselves, at least ostensibly, or at least to what they admit to, but they do send them to Bigelow via MUFON and other ways. So,
Yep.
so he's really kind of at the center of a lot of the most cutting-edge UFO research. And now we find out a lot of that was Pentagon funded, and it was
Yeah, I know.
put forward by Harry Reid, who was, a just hugely powerful senator for so many
Right.
years.
Right.
All right. So on CBS's 60 Minutes last May, Mr. Bigelow said that he was absolutely convinced that aliens exist and that UFOs have visited Earth. Bigelow, also the owner of the infamous Sherman or Skinwalker Ranch, as aforementioned, is the founder of the National Institute for Discovery Science, which occupied the ranch for a certain time to study UFOs, Bigfoot-like creatures, crop circles, glowing orbs, poltergeist, and all the things that Mark talked about. Working with Mr. Bigelow's Las Vegas-based company, the program produced documents that describe sightings of aircraft that seem to move at very high velocities with no visible signs of propulsion, or that hovered with no apparent means of lift. Officials with the program have also studied videos of encounters between unknown objects and American military aircraft, including the one released in August of a whitish oval object about the size of a commercial plane chased by the Navy FA-18F fighter from the aircraft carrier Nimitz off the coast of San Diego in 2004. It was released by the Defense Department's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, courtesy of the U.S. Department of Defense, on December 16th, 2017,
So this
which is
stuff
what
that
triggered it all.
Yeah. This is the information that the government has put out themselves.
So we have to stop here for a second and talk about this. What's the advantage of this?
Yeah,
a
right.
government that has constantly clamped down on information. I think we might all have different ideas, and the folks out there, about some people are 100% sure that the government is like the X-Files. They know everything. They keep it hidden in a room. Somebody's
Right.
smoking too much. Mulder's going to get to it eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that's the case. I think they certainly have a lot more information than the rest of us. They might even have access to downed UFOs.
Right.
Whatever their origin may be. Maybe extraterrestrial, maybe interdimensional, maybe time travel. But to me, I think that would do them all the good that a Neanderthal would have with an iPhone if it fell out of the sky.
Right.
Like they always say, oh, after Roswell, we invented cell phones and microwaves and,
they
and
say
transistors.
Is that like a microcapacitor is what we're supposed to have gotten from the Roswell?
To me, that's...
And like CD technology
If the only advantage that UFOs had, even if they
maybe.
were crashing in the
Yeah,
late
but-
40s, if the only advantage they had was transistor technology,
Yeah.
then they're not coming from very far. They're coming from Poughkeepsie. Like,
Well.
I really think if technology
No,
is far
right.
enough advanced to travel
Right.
millions, if not billions of miles,
Yeah,
or through
it's
time,
you're gonna be
our best minds are going to look at this the way a hermit
Or,
crab
you know-
is
No,
gonna
it's a
look at
caveman
at
and a CD
computer.
player.
Exactly.
Right.
You're going to be like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like
I'll
an
take it
ant- yeah,
apart.
like-
Or oog. Here's a club to your head because I want this thing, whatever it is.
Or it's like an ant trying to figure out a satellite.
We could do
So
the
maybe-
analogies all day.
Maybe what we got though, but maybe what we got out of Roswell was just the technology that we could understand, which was a little capacitor. So out of all the technology they had, we're like, hey, we can figure that this microprocessing thing out, sort of, because we have a big giant brick
Yeah.
one sitting in the other room.
Maybe, yeah.
True.
So maybe that's the case, but
That could be.
again, CD technology, you never know.
Yeah.
I don't
no.
see it.
Mini discs.
So you're pretty sure that the CDs we all enjoyed in the 1990s is heralded from alien technology?
Came from Roswell.
It could have.
It could have. Yeah.
It didn't.
It's a weird tech.
we don't
Like
know
digital
that.
tech is weird when you think about storage and
You're storing in ones and zeros. How would an alien race, I would assume, advanced enough to do interstellar travel, how would they, in your best speculation, store information? On a DNA level?
I would.
Which essentially is
organic
digital.
computing seems to be the
which
way
is
of the future.
basically digital. It does sound like an organic level.
Yeah.
Mini disc players.
Nano-disc
Get into
players.
it.
right. Well, that could be.
We went down this fucking rabbit hole quite far enough.
Dude, all day I've been researching this, and I went down so many fucking holes.
I can only imagine.
All right.
Let's get back to Mr. Elizondo, who... Okay, let's start this. Pentagon officials this month acknowledged the existence of the program, which began as part of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Officials insisted that the effort ended after 5 years in 2012. But Mr. Elizondo said the only thing that ended was the effort's government funding, which dried up in 2012. From then on, Elizondo said in an interview he worked with officials from the Navy and the CIA. He continued to work out of the Pentagon office until last October, when he resigned to protest what he characterized as extensive secrecy and internal opposition. That part doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
If you have like a kind of true believing scientist in there who wants to reveal things, and a government that knows the safety of
Just
hiding
trying
things
to deal
but
with
takes it to
all
the end.
the bureaucracy with the Greys and everything. I mean, that's
All
going to
right,
be a
now
pain
you've gone
right
too
in
far.
the ass.
I do not necessarily believe the Greys are in the
no,
government.
you're taking it to levels that
Okay, sorry.
no samurai swords, no grace.
No samurai swords. No Greys.
All right, here's where it gets interesting. Elizondo resigned, but then helped found the research group known as To the Stars Academy with another former defense official, Christopher K. Mellon, who was a deputy assistant secretary for defense intelligence, and former Blink-182 singer Tom DeLonge.
This is where it all comes to a point where you're like, sort of like we talked about with the Loveland Frogman and his failed experiment of a wand in his holster.
Right.
This is where it gets too fucking weird. So Tom DeLonge stops. Blink-182 is no longer a band, and he's just like, you know what? I'm doing UFOs, and we all this entire time we've all been mocking him. Don't
he
say
gets
we
voted
haven't.
ufologist of the year.
But we've all been like, oh,
Well,
Tom
of course.
DeLonge doing UFO
And see,
shit.
a former pop rock star from decades before,
Yeah.
suddenly sort of getting excised from his band and saying, I'm into shit that's in the sky. And he always sounds high as a kite, which I'm not doing. You know, listen, do what you got to do. He doesn't seem to be like that spot on represent. Now, ironically, he might be. Ironically,
Well, no, that's the
a guy
fun-
like that might be the one that makes the big
That's-
revelation.
He's
Maybe,
the guy that's making it happen.
But it seems ridiculous on its face.
Exactly,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
why it's real.
well,
Because of how ridiculous it is, that's what makes it real. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with it, but
what makes what real?
I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
but
good on
exactly.
you, Tom
Yeah,
DeLonge.
no, what do you mean?
What
Like,
makes what real? Because the only
Well,
thing
he's getting these videos declassified through his company. That's how they're doing all.
All right, that's interesting. But I have to say the most interesting I've heard so far about this To the Stars Academy is the fact that he recruited a Pentagon researcher that was officially researching UFOs and another Defense Department official.
Yeah.
To me, it's like if he's attracting... Now, let's be honest. They might be really interested in the phenomenon, and what he has is money.
Sure.
They might not necessarily be interested one way or another in Tom DeLonge.
He has, if we go to his actual site, let's see if I can bring it up real quick here. He has an entire board of people, and it's not low level people. This is all high level Pentagon, CIA officials that are all former, obviously.
Right.
Former that are all working for him now. Now, granted, if anyone has heard the Tom DeLonge interview from the Joe Rogan podcast, not the best interviewee in the world. Because everything that Joe tries to ask him, he's just like, well, I can't tell you about that. He's like, well, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't think I was crazy.
Well, which is
that's
a classic
the
thing that
interview-
insane people say.
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
but then...
If you could see this dragon, you'd believe in this dragon.
Literally a month later, they're like, oh, here's a video from the government with a UFO.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well,
but
shit.
it's a UFO.
God damn it, Tom DeLonge.
All right, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's all stop.
Well,
here.
that's yeah.
Let's all stop for a second.
I'm not
Just
saying...
shush
I'm
your
not
beautiful
saying
pie hole.
War of the Worlds is going to happen. All I'm saying
Let
is...
me say this. Just let me get this out. I'll say it, and then you can go on about your Greys and reptilians and whatever. It's a UFO. It's an object that doesn't seem like it should fly, wibble-wobbling through space. I'm impressed that the pilots are like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I'm also impressed by something that goes less reported, which another pilot says there's a fleet of them. So a fleet of anomalous, non-aerodynamic objects with no obvious propulsion flying through the sky interests me.
Yeah. Me too.
It is fascinating. but we can't necessarily jump to the conclusion that it's extraterrestrial.
Oh, no. I'm not sure what's inside of these
If anything.
UFOs. But what's interesting is that Tom DeLonge starts this thing. He gets these people in the CIA and the government, all these former officials. Everyone's like, this dude's fucking nuts. And then a couple months later, he actually gets work done. Not saying there's anything in there, but he actually gets the shit put out. And it's like, oh, here's the gimbal video.
You have to give credit to results.
Well, yeah, which is funny because I'm still on the train of like, well, I'm not sure about Tom DeLonge, what's going on here, but you can't deny that he did get something released.
There's a couple interesting things that come up too, because it's not just videos that got released. Elizondo, who obviously left to help start the Stars Academy, claims that even though the Pentagon and the Defense Department swears that the program doesn't exist, he does have a successor. Now, the successor is likely still being financed by Bigelow privately, but he says he's still working in the Pentagon. So it's interesting that the Pentagon's continuing this. Not that it would surprise me. Now, the reason that they started this program, according to Elizondo, was the sightings were often not reported up the military chain of command because service members were afraid that they would be laughed at or stigmatized, which happens a lot. Contracts obtained by the New York Times show a congressional appropriation for just under $22 million beginning in late 2008 through 2011. The money, this is back to the Pentagon's program now, was used for management of the program, research, and assessment of the threat posed by such objects. The funding went to Mr. Bigelow's company, Bigelow Aerospace, which hired contrasters. Sorry, they don't contrast anything.
God damn it! What is a contraster? Did they fix contrast on your TV?
Subcontractors.
Oh, shit's dark. Who do I call? Call the contraster.
You hit that contrast.
Up the contrast.
Well, what's the level?
And solicited research for the program. Okay. All right, but here's the
so basically the government subcontracts to Bigelow, who's like, I'm going to take this over.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the government, like they do in a lot of things, they send jobs to civilian companies.
Yeah, that's
it's cheaper.
the deal.
You do your 3-bid process. You put your proposals out to companies, 3-bid. There you go.
You know how it goes.
Yeah, you get the deal.
Under Mr. Bigelow's direction, the company modified buildings in Las Vegas for the storage of metal alloys and other materials that Elizondo and the program contractors claim had been recovered from unidentified aerial phenomena. Researchers also studied people who said that they had experienced physical effects from encounters with the objects and examined them for any physiological changes. In addition, researchers spoke to military service members who had reported sightings of strange aircraft.
There are rumors, and we're going to emphasize the word rumors, because this is the internet and literally anybody can put anything up.
Well, yeah.
But there are some rumors that some people that have come into contact with these buildings where they're storing this alien material have had adverse effects from it.
Like what?
Like illnesses, like cancer type things.
Oh, so
things like that.
So they're not just getting nauseous. You're talking like death-inducing horrible diseases.
Like, people are getting very sick from exposure to this stuff. But again, take that with a grain of salt. It is the internet. It is a rumor, and we all know how Reddit is.
True.
Yeah, well, that's you can't.
You got to take it with a grain. But regardless of whether or not those rumors are true, to me, the idea that there are buildings now in Vegas, Bigelow financed, government researcher attended, that allegedly contain recovered materials. This isn't like the middle of Area 51 or Dugway Proving Ground or all the other places that are like super top secret. You can't get within 100 miles of without getting vetted and half shot. This is just in Vegas, in a garage somewhere, some warehouse. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazier that the government has this aerospace program, and they're like, you know what? Let's contract it out because we got bigger shit to worry about than shit in space coming at us. That's how crazy is that?
Here's a deeper question: is there still the now? Let me go into full paranoia land. Is there still that completely dark black op DARPA government thing? Organization that knows all about UFOs, that never ever communicated to presidents or anyone else who's an elected official, who are like, we know the secret, we know the deal, we've got the bodies. But then Harry Reid and a couple of interested parties who have a lot of power and access to millions, if not billions of dollars, are like, we should look into this. And this is like the separate front face that has nothing to do with the actual dark side of the moon programs.
Right.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I mean, it becomes complex. I mean, but these are things you have to entertain.
Yeah, I don't think so. And a little bit of me wants to think, because I love anything dark ops and weird,
I know,
and under the radar shit.
It's so cool.
But I don't think that's the case. But
there is kind of a pretty prevailing theory, I guess, amongst people out there in the field. They're like, well, all this is with this whole Tom DeLonge and Bigelow, all this is just a distraction to keep us occupied from something else.
Well, that's the ultimate paranoid
But then
conspiracy
they
theorist
immediately
take.
go to the NWO takeover.
Well, of course.
Which is like, come on, man.
Yeah, well, there's no other thing. There's nothing serious that you could lead after something like that.
No, because they're trying to say, like, oh, look, like this happened, and then all of a sudden, Trump says that Jerusalem is, is going to be, Israel's capital, and they're basically trying to play it off as like the government put this stuff out to keep people distracted enough to keep their eyes away from the one world government and the Bitcoin system and the social media taking all your brainwaves. So, like, okay, if you want to say that, like, all right, this could be some sort of distraction from the government. Okay, but from what?
From what?
Because this is kind of huge.
This is
It's not kind of huge. It's the biggest shit that's happened recently.
No, not.
Well,
I'll
as
even
far
contradict
as far as ufology goes.
No, I agree with what you're saying. In terms of ufology, this might be the single biggest one-time revelation that's ever happened.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's not like the Roswell incident, which sort of faded into such complete obscurity that no one heard about it until Robert Stack and Unsolved Mysteries decided to tackle it again in the 80s. And then 40 years later, people are like, I do remember those little bodies and they were being dragged out. And, this is something. Yeah. And now it's basically a household word. I'm not disparaging Roswell for any big Roswell fans out there. I'm saying there's something definitely fascinating there, but this isn't that. This isn't something that takes 30 years to come out. This is a revelation that comes out that people sort of acknowledge, other people dismiss offhanded because they've been trained, indoctrinated by mainstream media to just dismiss it.
Right.
And in my opinion, this might be, no matter where it leads, and hopefully it leads someplace interesting, the single biggest revelation that's ever come out, because basically it's footage of pilots, America's best and bravest saying, I don't know what the hell this is. There's a fleet of them, and showing us an object that it shouldn't be able to fly, flying.
Yeah.
Again, it's asinine to assume it's aliens. It's asinine to assume anything.
No,
sure.
but
the fact that the government
there
is acknowledging that an unknown thing is doing this, and our best fighter pilots are like, what the F?
Yeah.
That's astonishing.
I think that we've talked before about,
it totally is.
Like when the aliens, if and when the aliens do arrive, like what are people like, oh yeah, it's not even real. You're talking about it's all CGI. Well, this is kind of a situation where you get this reveal, you get this information, you get the government admitting we don't know what this is, and you have people in the community of ufology and like I heard this on Coast to Coast, a couple of different people, and they're just like, yeah, no, this is a government, this is all just a trick and a ploy by the government to keep your eyes off the prize. Now the new world order is going to start and this and that, and it's like, well, we got it finally. Like, can't we just give us a second to like bask in the glory of like the government admitted there is shit in the sky that they don't know about?
I agree
before
with
we
you.
start poo-pooing and talking about the NWO, not the wrestling league.
It's not even that admitting. It's the fact that there's something that was going on
beyond the video.
Unadmittedly for years.
In the interview that I heard when that was brought up, the guy was basically just like, yeah, of course we all knew that.
Well, that's what I mean, and that's where
it's like, but dude,
that's kind of the weird
they
apathy. I know, but
it.
that's where that weird apathy comes in. Of like, well, of course they did.
Yeah,
but it's like when you really, it's like.
Well, no, for years, I think all of us were like, yeah, obviously the government's keeping tabs on you. And then all of a sudden, Edward Snowden comes out and we're like, holy shit.
The government's keeping tabs on us.
The government's really doing it.
Johnny Tinfoil Hat is still living a horrible life, but he's not that far off the mark.
Yeah,
Kaczynski
he's a little
had
extreme,
the idea,
but...
go to the woods because they can't find you. Well, they can find you there.
Let's be honest, his idea ended there. The good part.
He should have.
The bombing part was negligibly.
Just wrote the book and not bombed anybody.
It was pretty nasty. Yeah. No, get a manifesto, live in a shack, but don't kill people. All right, let's call it that.
That's good way you live.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Off the grid,
way to live.
Fine. Yeah, off the grid's fine. Just don't hurt anybody.
So it is a big deal, but not to go to New World Order crap. The fact is, there's enough of me that's old enough and paranoid enough to go, if they're showing this, if it was top secret technology or a super drone that flies on electromagnetic dreams and wishes of unicorns and small children or something, they wouldn't have showed it. So if they're showing it to us, what's that agenda? Because that's the other thing. It just comes out of the blue. So I get what you're saying. Can't we just enjoy it and not poo-poo it? All right, we've enjoyed it. I got to poo-poo it a little.
Okay, no, I'm on the poo-poo train.
You're going to put this out.
Yeah.
You have to have a reason.
Right.
What are you distracting from? Now, I don't necessarily think it's a global Illuminati takeover type thing, or maybe I'm part of it.
Well,
I do think that
whatever reptile.
If yeah, right.
Yeah, clearly.
Fucking reptile.
I do think if they're releasing this, they're doing it for a reason. I don't think it's utterly random. And if they're willing to show this and willing to admit that they were studying it, but now they're in denial that they're continuing to study it, then what is it? There's two avenues. Either they're distracting from something,
theory.
or maybe they're preparing us for something.
That's my theory is the slow burn.
The slow revelation.
Well, I'm calling it the slow burn.
And what's funny is the slow burn is exactly what Tom DeLonge is talking about.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about New World Order slow burn.
No.
It's an actual revelation
but
that's not
Tom DeLonge's whole
conspiracy.
thing is like, look, we're going to start releasing this stuff, and then it's going to happen. That's the whole.
It's possible.
That's the whole point of the Academy for the Stars is getting people
I'm
ready.
saying that's their agenda. I'm not saying that's real. I'm not saying like eventually, like in 10 years, like it's going to be Monday, and you wake up and it's going to be like, hey, here, Billy the alien. He's going to talk to you.
We're going to be living in alien nation, basically.
Yeah, I don't think.
If they're as cool as they are, except for the sour milk thing, I'd be totally down with
the
it.
sour milk, the cottage cheese.
Well, otherwise, Mandy Patinkin was a good neighbor.
Oh, totally.
I could totally live with Alien Nation world.
And I'm not saying that I'm not. I don't want people to think that I'm saying like they're not trying to distract us from something, because I think maybe somewhere in the middle, you have to be like, okay, this is a disclosure to serve a purpose. So this is serving the purpose of maybe because of the current administration and their disrespect for the intelligence agencies. Maybe they're like, oh, hey, by the way, good luck fucking dealing with this dude. There's some aliens.
That's a real possibility.
And in that same sense, that also serves the purpose of causing some sort of distraction away from, if you really want to go to New World Order or whatever. Politics in general, whatever.
What it could be, kind of according to the lines Mark was just illustrating, and Chris, is it really could be, sort of again like the Pentagon Papers, a disgruntled person on the inside saying, folks should know about this. This is interesting.
Yeah.
People are ready.
But it wasn't a leak. It was declassified.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a Snowden type situation, but it was the Pentagon being like, we're going to do this.
Yeah, but
they did it kind of for a reason.
All right, so it's not a leak, but there still has to be motivation.
But it's not like sneaking it out on a flash drive. It's them looking at this and being like, let's just declassify this.
Or they maybe soon after they did kind of have an idea maybe what it was. And they're like, well,
which actually
it's fucking harmless, so go ahead.
Is an even better distraction. Have you ever seen it's a documentary called like The Disinformation Men?
Yes.
That's exactly what they do.
Yeah, I know. That's what worries me.
Yeah. Oh, did we just figure it out?
So it's not really a thing.
Are we the new lone gunmen?
No, because A, they die, and I'm not down with that.
Okay,
B, they hardly ever got laid.
The Lone Rangers
and that blows.
are actually better, but it's a whole.
The Lone Rangers?
Yeah, that's a whole.
We are random
Airheads?
buddies
Was that Airheads?
who like to drink and talk about UFOs.
We
are in no way compromising the government's integrity. I'm putting this out there.
We're out of whiskey, so we're running out of good ideas.
We may have just cracked the code. So Chris's take on it's actually pretty interesting that the government's like, yeah, put this out because we already figured this shit out. It was a fucking weapons platform.
Yeah.
There you go.
I will say this, though, and let's go back to Harry Reid for a minute.
Harry Reid.
In 2009... Mr. Reid decided that the program had made such extraordinary discoveries that he argued for heightened security to protect it. Much progress has been made with the identification of several highly sensitive, unconventional aerospace-related findings, Mr. Reid said. And remember, he's an established, legitimate senator.
This guy is
he was the leader.
Yeah, he's legit.
So that's pretty interesting that he said it. He said this in a letter to William Lynn III, a deputy defense secretary at the time, requesting that the designation of a restricted special access program be put on the project to limit it to a few listed officials. So Harry Reid actually tried to more secretize, I know that's not really a word, but he tried to make it even harder and more clandestine.
Right.
And he's like one of those dirty liberal Democrats that everyone says just loves to spread secrets and money around. But the fact that a man of his stature saw the research, saw what they had found, and said, this could get pretty dangerous. We don't want enemies to find it. We don't want random people to stumble across it. We really should defend this better. The fact that he was worried about it actually really piques my curiosity.
So is it a matter of caution or a matter of understanding what it is and realizing that you can't let the Russians get their hands on it?
Maybe it's both. If it's unknown and dangerous, you're going to be cautious. If it's beginning to be known and actively potentially deadly, then that goes into Manhattan
So maybe
Project
they did
realm.
stumble across some sort of alien technology that they're like, this could be a game changer.
Or future technology. Or fucking hollow earth technology. I mean, I don't believe that, but I'm just saying I think it's absolutely absurd that we always jump to the conclusion it's from other planets.
Yeah.
Everyone does. Extraterrestrial, because it came, when the first big sightings came out, Kenneth Arnold in 47 and others, this was during the midst of the sci-fi craze when the aerospace program first started getting built, and rockets were starting to really come into vogue. We got all those great German scientists. Well, maybe they weren't great as people, but from Operation Paperclip, and we incorporated them into our space program.
Yeah.
So at that point, they're like, well, of course this is from other planets. Where else could it be from? This is what the zeitgeist of the moment is, aliens from other planets. But really, why limit it to that? Because if you have the kind of maybe it's alternate Earths. Maybe it's like Crisis on Infinite Earths. Well, the DC Comics was right.
Right. Well, I mean, just speaking of how tech is, there's got to be up-and-coming nerds. There could be just like a group of nerds somewhere.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
Just make, not even with that, not even like underground nerds, not even somebody out in the open, just making some shit that nobody's...
Like dark web nerds?
Just
no, don't go there.
Not dark web, just super smart fuckers that are thinking of things.
Gray web nerds.
All right, whatever color web Mark wants to be on.
Jesus Christ,
now, I'm into the mauve web.
But just making some shit, you know what I mean? Just doing tech under the radar.
Along the lines of what Chris is saying, and I think we should absolutely dedicate a pod to this in the not-too-distant future, there are a lot of examples of crazy advanced technology built in people's garages by geniuses that could have been the next Tesla or Einstein.
That's what I'm saying.
That gets swapped up by the government under the auspices of this is either a danger to people in general, or this would help the government, so kind of like they can steal your land if they need it. Yeah. The federal government comes in and confiscates these things. And a lot of people die under shady circumstances. It's really worthy of doing a pod about it.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a guy that did like a nuclear reactor in his...
You're talking about the movie The Manhattan
garage?
Project with John Lithgow from the 80s, semi-classic.
That was that story?
No, it might have in reality.
I'm pretty sure there was a guy that like created
movies.
a nuclear device or whatever, like in his garage, because he was like. There's also the guy I believe with like a car that could like run on water.
Of course, that's always the legend. That's the number one legend. And the perpetual energy.
Legend?
Not necessarily. It might be based on something.
Or
it bears further research.
Yeah.
But anyway, along with the lines of what Chris is saying, there might be some like grassroots underground technocrats or whatever you call them, technologists that are building some crazy shit, but they can't keep it secret for long. And these people would want to patent and sell.
Right.
I mean, look at the Segway.
But they fail. I mean, not if they're a bunch of genius trollers.
Well, you're
that's
right.
True.
I mean, people like to
or revolutionaries.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what they want to just throw a wrench in the whole thing.
Imagine like Elon and Musk, but like on 4chan.
Oh,
just
God.
trolling and shit posting you until you fucking can't take it anymore.
That would be a waste of genius, for
Which
one.
would sort of be like on Chris's theory, like if this is some sort of like underground tech nerd movement where like they're like, yeah, no, we got this pretty sweet spaceship that has like this, this propulsion system that no one knows about. Let's fucking take it out in San Francisco for a little fucking, jaunt. And then all of a sudden, government sees, the fuck is that?
What's funny is that you say that now, and maybe we stumbled on something crazy, but the whole... crazy airship phenomenon of the late 1800s during the cowboy times when people were seeing ships with propellers flying through the sky long before the Wright brothers did their shit. A lot of times when they'd land, they either had Asiatic or Italian features, because they weren't so politically correct at the time. Swarthy men that said, I just built this in my homeland and I'm flying around. Would you like to come for a ride or something? And, Farmer Joe would be like, oh, fuck that noise. Here's a pancake. And then they'd leave. And so...
Fuck you, antipasto.
So the idea of an underground... techno nerd network that creates phenomenal things but never really surfaces itself. It's almost like a less fun, I guess, and techno-oriented version of Brad Bird's Tomorrowland or something.
Yeah.
Like, we're all getting together. We know each... And in the world of the internet, super geniuses could get together if they just didn't want to...
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nowadays, it makes things much easier if you have some whack idea. Like, I didn't know how to think of this. And someone's like, I thought of this too.
Yeah.
It's like, let's
you
fucking
can build on other people's... It's sort of like Seth Brundle said in the remake of The Fly. It's like when Gina Davis, the science reporter, came and said, did you invent this? She's like, no. People much smarter than me invented this. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I put it together. Yeah. Now, of course, that character played by Jeff Goldblum was a genius in and of himself, and he built a transporter, and he got him with a fly and tragic consequences. But before then, he's basically saying what Cronenberg knew, who I believe at least co-wrote the film and directed it, which is... the greatest developments don't come from thin air, except maybe if you're Nikolai Tesla or Einstein. The greatest developments are built on the shoulders of the great men and women who came before you. And in the internet age, like no other time in history.
Oh.
You don't have to like go to a convention in Geneva or somewhere
Yeah,
and meet somebody.
it's
and go,
all there.
We
The
hit it off
information's
and
all
thought,
there,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's
Right.
work together via correspondence.
Yeah.
You can Skype, you can talk, you can read other people's research.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're very smart and maybe a little antisocial, yeah, I heard the poltergeist too. You can actually make great strides in the 21st century.
Exactly. That's
that
what I'm
were
saying.
absolutely impossible in every other era of humanity.
This is the easiest time to do anything like that now.
If you're capable.
Like, yeah.
So was that the government or your neighbor?
It was upstairs.
Oh, okay. I was making
The
sure.
government can be
Are they telling us
upstairs.
to hush down, or are they going to snipe us? What's going to happen here?
We'll see. If we wake up in the next dimension, then we'll know.
Very good.
Oh my God, that's the place I don't want to.
If we're raided by the...
Yeah.
All right, let's just end this on a quote. We'll wrap it up. We'll bring it back home to this astonishing new revelation.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
totally.
great, bad, or inconsequential.
Yeah,
the worst
could
part
be
is
anything, really.
I don't want to wait all the years it'll take to really find out the real import of this, but I'm
Right.
glad we lived through it.
Yeah, totally.
But here it is. We're sort of in the position of what would happen if you gave Leonardo da Vinci a garage door opener, said Harold E. Putoff, an engineer who had conducted research on extrasensory perception for the CIA and later worked as a contractor for the program being the Space Academy, whatever that is.
Oh, the star. What is it?
Also the
The
one by the
extraterrestrial
Pentagon.
threat.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Okay, so Harold E. Putoff, which by the way sounds like a Far Side name.
Yeah,
Totally.
Completely. Said that we're sort of in the position, I'm going to read this again, of what would happen if you gave Leonardo da Vinci a garage door opener. First of all, he'd try to figure out what all this plastic stuff is. He wouldn't know anything about the electromagnetic signals involved or its function. So what I love about this is that it's a scientist who has worked for the government and is now evidently independent, who did ESP research for the CIA, which we all know they were deeply into remote viewing and all that stuff, which we can get in at some future date.
We're definitely going to do some deep dark
The fact
CIA
that he said
episodes.
basically what we've all been saying, which is you could give the world's greatest genius, arguably Da Vinci, access to a very simple piece of modern technology.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would worry about the basics first. And that's what they're doing. That to me really smacks of truth. It's not like the Roswell stuff I was saying earlier where like we open up the spaceship and suddenly we had electric can openers and robot dogs and it was wonderful. That to me is a little sketchy. This guy's saying, hey, we're just figuring out what plastic is right now.
Yeah.
We can't even begin to figure out what this other stuff does. Really kind of to me, I don't know if it's true or not, but it lends an air of authenticity that impresses the heck out of me.
Yeah. Well, there's
Yeah,
only
totally.
so much to look for.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's high technology, what exactly? We've said it
you
over and over.
don't know what to look for if there's something beyond what you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know what great sci-fi writer said it. Somebody can probably write in and call me a moron for not knowing it. Maybe it was Arthur C. Clarke. Technology that is sufficiently advanced enough, if it is shown to somebody who doesn't know what it is, it will always appear to be magic.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm of course paraphrasing,
Yeah,
but it's true.
totally.
It would seem like wizards and madness and high sorcery.
So real quick, too, here, I know another quote to end us out with, and this, again, is from the To the Stars Academy from Mr. Tom DeLonge. Tom says, all the things people have heard about or seen, this is going to be the first step of 20. There's a lot more shit coming.
What are the other 19?
Why so specific?
Yeah, that's a lot of steps. Is it like the AA?
Well, no, he's saying that there's
Program.
more things to come. To the Stars also promises to improve national security, combat climate change, and harness telepathy, among other goals.
Oh, good
Combat
Lord. All right, can we
climate
break
change?
that down one at a time? real
Combat
quick?
it.
Yeah, they're going to
I'm all about combating climate change. I don't know how or what. I mean, clean energy, I guess, would be
Nobody
a huge
cares
start.
about telepathy?
I do. That's the
No,
most
I know.
important thing.
For some reason, when you said combat climate change,
That's
I thought
the
you
first
meant
thing that
like
you went to. You didn't go to ESP?
no. Simmer down.
Hey,
I
start
thought
on the
I meant
lower
he was
ones.
versus, like he was against people thinking climate change was a thing. When he said combat climate change, I was like,
Yeah,
why
no,
would you?
no, I think he
combat?
literally
I
means
know what you
fight
mean,
it.
right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, that
What I think Tom
My
DeLonge
mind
is
went
saying in this is that he's saying, like, okay,
wait, he
so
wants to fight telepathy.
No, who wants to fight telepathy?
Wait a minute, he didn't just say. Did he say that? He wasn't in there.
combat
Climate change.
combat climate change and harness telepathy among other goals.
I'm a little uneasy with telepathy.
What Tom is saying
let's
is
stick
that
with climate change
with
for now.
this-
Yeah.
With this,
My mind is not your province.
with this To the
Yeah.
Stars Academy, this is his way of disclosing all this UFO information that he gets declassified from the government with his board of super CIA folk, former, quote unquote, former.
Well, we'll see how this goes.
So this is just step one.
Wait.
He's saying this is step one. possibly 20. Ghost Train?
It's a ghost train.
It's a ghost train, okay.
It's beyond the
So
train.
he clearly, if you go to the Academy for the Academy for the Stars, it's like a fucking award
I know it really.
show.
You know what it feels like? It feels like something that sets up an award ceremony.
If you go to the
for
if you go to
celebrities.
the website tothestarsacademy.com, they break their entire goal down as a company. Now, granted, it sounds like a mixture between Scientology and a pyramid scheme.
Okay,
But,
all right, that's comforting.
because they have a lot of quote unquote invest buttons all over the place. Okay,
Well, that's yeah.
if this is what he's doing, in one of the first products of this organization, if you will, is the Pentagon declassifying
Could you
this
imagine-
UFO video, we're heading in the right direction. Or we're being duped into our death.
if
one of the
great,
two.
if a
Yes,
great
that's the deal.
Exactly.
Roll the dice.
The great change of everything, the revelation of all the scientific mysteries is a GoFundMe. Like seriously,
I know.
I mean, dude, that's kind of what it's going to come down to, though. I mean,
it's actually ghetto enough to be
when
the
the
truth.
government is subcontracting to Bigelow to be like, hey, here's some possible cancerous metal, take care of it. Oh, by the way, he's basically funding the government by putting his money into
Yeah.
all this research. Then you have this To the Stars Academy, which is like working outside of the government, but yet working within the same circles of the government.
Ish.
Well, it's like, well, how? What?
You got to think if
Yeah,
there's
the entire
something
time-
viable that they didn't want you to know,
Fucking
there'd
Tom
be
DeLonge.
an undisclosed kibosh.
I agree,
You know what I mean? Like,
It's true.
but then, in all fairness, there has been that for decades.
yeah.
They
yeah.
have squelched down on everything. They and the rules that were set forth in those early reports. I'm ashamed of myself for not remembering it, like the Robertson panel and other things. That basically said it'll ruin world religion. People will lose their minds.
right,
they won't go to the
right.
supermarket anymore out of sheer terror.
Carrots would wither and die.
Carrots will wither and die.
I don't.
They will.
And they had all
Because
these fears.
Farmers will no longer farm because why farm when you're moving to Mars?
No, why farm when UFOs are going to annihilate you when you're on your tractor?
Yeah.
Well,
That's what they were afraid would happen.
Okay, well,
And
I
in
was
the
thinking,
50s,
like, peace and harmony, but
that's a legitimate
No.
thing.
Yeah. When you're getting War of the Worlded.
Oh yeah.
You give no fucks about your corn.
Yeah, Earth versus the flying. When
Yeah.
Harryhausen's telling you how to, fear the terror of the skies, you don't make that
Yeah.
revelation.
No, it's
to
War of the
average
Worlds
public.
versus he who walks behind the rose.
Oh God!
Malachi.
In all fairness, I'm rooting for the he who walks behind
I'm
the
kind
rose.
of I'm rooting for the weird corn god
I'm
in the
looking
field.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. He's always scary.
Can you imagine? Like they're like it's in signs or whatever. It's aliens, and all of a sudden I'm like,
Oh,
what?
dude, all the vines come up.
Oh,
and get 'em.
children of the corn versus signs.
Thanks,
Oh,
he.
All right, so there you have it. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Kryptonaut
vote
Podcast
for
with
he.
Mark Storrs
Chris Carzali.
Drinking Chris.
and
Rob Morphy.
Hey, be sure to check us out on social media. All the links for our social medias are going to be in this episode description. We are available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify.
Love it.
And we're going to have
Spotify.
iHeartRadio coming soon in Stitcher Radio. But if you can do us a huge favor, it would be awesome to go on iTunes. You can do this right in the iOS app. You can leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. And if you do leave us a rating and a review, we will read it on air.
Absolutely.
Will we?
Yeah, we will.
And if you
We'll
give us a
totally read it on
subject to
air.
Making
research,
promises, man.
we'll put it on the docket.
Yeah, totally. So be sure to check out all of our socials. It's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Twitter. It's everywhere. You can go to our website, thecryptonautpodcast.com. You can check us out there. And thanks for joining us. We'll be talking to you soon.
Oh, snap.
See you on Jupiter.
Oh,
Gosh.
we will suffocate on Jupiter. 3 seconds on Jupiter and our ass is blown apart.
Not even 3.
Yeah, it's a high wind on Jupiter. It's a scary high
Yeah.
wind.
We're talking to you soon.